Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, our production of Gore column, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. With us today, happy to have him back, Ian Patterson, CEO, Plurilock Security, trades in Canada under PLUR, for our friends in the US under PLCKF. For those of you new to the story, as you can kind of surmise from the name of the company, here's what you need to know. The global cybersecurity market is forecast to grow about $345 billion by 2026. That's for obvious reasons. We're all online, and so are the bad guys. Until now, most people think of naturally firewalls, passwords, biometrics like fingerprints, facial scans, and two-factor authentication when it comes to cybersecurity, because those are the dominant solutions right now. But you know what? The bad guys are still winning the war. When you consider that cybercrime is expected to cost $6 trillion in 2021, and by 2025, expected to climb to $10.5 trillion. Plurilock brings an entirely different and exciting approach to cybersecurity. They've won awards. They've generated fantastic revenue. We'll talk about that in a second. By authenticating a person's identity using behavioral biometrics. So behavioral biometric data is the way you move your keyboard and your mouse. That creates an identity signature that's completely unique to you, like a digital key. So it's one thing for someone to pick up whether someone's gotten in, breach your platform by having passwords and usernames and things like that. But Plurilock picks up whether the person who's on the keyboard, for example, is you, because it knows your identity through how you move your keyboard, how you type in your keyboard, how you move your mouse. It's fascinating and more than just lip service. Q3 revenues, $15.2 million. Revenues for the first 9 months came in at let's call it $24 million. And clients include orders came in from the US DOD, the US Air Force, the Department of Navy, more, and so on. And today's news, Plurilock announces acquisition of Integra Networks. Ian, welcome back, my friend.
George, always great to be here.
Yeah, well, we love having you on because it's just your technology is absolutely fascinating. But let's talk about this acquisition first. Why make this acquisition of Integra? What do they do?
Well, George, it's good to just restate our corporate strategy is that we have some very interesting technology, and that's housed in our technology division. And what we have said is that we believe that the path to building a big company is to grow both organically as well as inorganically. So last year, we made an acquisition of a company called Aurora. They're based in California, and they were a profitable cyber company with great customers. Last year, we saw the results of some of those customer wins, including US DOD, US Air Force, Special Operations Command, etc. And one of the questions we kept getting asked was, hey, you guys are a Canadian company. How much work do you do in Canada? And the answer was, frankly, we don't do that much. And so the acquisition of Integra is hoping to change that. And so Integra is a company based in Ottawa. And they're another example of a profitable cybersecurity company with great customers. So historically, Integra has sold to customers like Canadian law enforcement with the RCMP, Canadian Defense, as well as Shared Services Canada. So a lot of Canadian federal clients. And they're a great team with great access to customers. And we felt that it was really a good fit to add them to our solutions division. And grow as part of the broader Plurilock family.
Because it's not just a case of an accretive acquisition, right? It's also a case of they got a fantastic client list, like some you just mentioned, which means a bigger pipe for you to now introduce Plurilock's behavioral security solutions, correct?
So you're absolutely correct. So the vision here is that we have two divisions. They are designed to grow independently of one another, but really where this becomes really interesting is the ability to cross-sell the products that we build and sell in the technology division, and then make those available to our solution division companies like Aurora, now like Integra, to be able to offer those products to their end customers. I think one of the things you have to keep in mind is that a solutions provider like an Aurora or like an Integra, they typically don't have their owned and developed products. It's just not a skill set that they typically have. They don't have data scientists, they don't have developers like we do to be able to build really innovative, high gross margin products. And we do that in our technology division. And so it becomes very attractive for a group like Integra to look at Plurilock and say, hey, those are really differentiated products. We can get access to those. Really, nobody else is selling them. And that becomes really a win-win transaction between the two of us.
And you guys are still really early in your growth. And this is brand new technology that isn't widely known or not widely accepted yet. And you guys are obviously looking to change that. What kind of feedback have you guys heard since the last time we spoke? Because I'm sure you've been doing demos, proposals, all those kind of great things. Because I'm blown away by the technology. I love the fact that on my laptop right now, I can have security, that I've got my password and all that. But if someone gets through, I can also have Plurilock on there that in 5 seconds will identify, hey, that's not George typing, that's somebody else. Hey, that's not George moving. So I'm blown away, but I'm not a cybersecurity, the kind of enterprise client you guys are going after. What kind of feedback are you guys hearing about how great your technology is?
Well, I think you hit upon something that is not as well understood, but it's the fact that most cybersecurity companies stay private until they're very, very large. And so, the traditional path to growing a cybersecurity company is one of venture capital. You typically go out, you raise a couple of rounds of venture capital, and then the only time that the public markets gets access to invest in those types of opportunities is when they're much larger. And so
Right.
this is actually one of the things, if you're looking for a comparable to Plurilock out there, there's a lot of large cap cybersecurity companies in the United States. There's not as many small cap. And so Plurilock is one of the few opportunities in cybersecurity that is, to your point, an earlier stage opportunity. And we find that we get a lot of feedback at the company level that's really attractive, that other people don't have access to. Now, specifically on the technology, listen, we've just been really heads down focusing on executing on not only the things that our customers like, but also the things that our customers are saying, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And so notably, we just shipped a fairly major product update for our Plurilock Defend product. And the majority of all the features and functionality that we added into that product update came directly from both existing as well as prospective customers. And so a lot of those were around enterprise integrations, making it easier to work with users in bulk, those types of things. But they're important items as we mature the product and continue to get it in the hands of users.
But in the meantime, if you're getting feedback, that means people like it. They're saying, hey, Plurilock, not just Ian, but whoever your sales team in, we like this. Can you also add in these kind of features? So
correct.
Can you see Plurilock becoming a real, do you think Plurilock will become a replacement to a lot of cybersecurity solutions, or a really great complementary part of the overall cybersecurity solutions for most companies?
So great question. Cybersecurity, the way that the industry is set up right now, it very much is a team sport. And one of the key drivers in cybersecurity from our perspective is this move to a zero trust way of thinking. And so zero trust, really, when you break it down, it's you should never assume that the user is the right authorized user. You should always verify that they are in fact the right authorized user. And you should do that when they first log in. You should also do that as they're going about their day. And so technology like Plurilock really fits into that new paradigm of zero trust thinking. By the way, it's not just us talking about zero trust. The White House has put forth a number of publications, both an executive order as well as a follow-up memo, fleshing out this move to zero trust. And so you talked about firewalls earlier. It's not that firewalls are being replaced, it's that you need firewalls plus a number of other solutions. So cybersecurity, ultimately, it's a team sport. You need a defense in depth. So if they somehow get through the firewall or get around the firewall, or they get through the email filtering, through the spam filtering, etc. If they do somehow end up on the endpoint, on the actual device, then you have a technology like Plurilock's that can ultimately detect and say, George is not George, and you really need to do something about that.
Yeah, and not that you're going to give it away at all, but I can see how people can hack through firewalls and all those things. We can see that. But what's great about your technology is, if I've got installed my laptop, it takes a couple of weeks for you guys to really learn my behaviors, really learn. And then after that, within 5 seconds, you'll know if that's George actually on his laptop, right? I mean, so it's that continuous monitoring that I would think is pretty difficult for. I mean, how do I ask this sensitively? But how's a hacker get around that? You know, like I know they get my username and password. There's phishing. There's this. There's all these things. But man, how do you mimic George? You just can't, right? You can't mimic a lot of your users.
Well, I think you're hitting on the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning. I mean, functionally, the ability to profile George, build what a set of characteristics that a machine can then compare against and say, is George still acting like George? It's a very difficult data science problem to achieve. Now, thankfully, we have an extremely well-credentialed team, some of the foremost experts in the world. It's backed up by academic journals and citations and multiple patents, but it's a difficult problem. However, we're fundamentally only solving the identity question, right? We're not protecting against malware. We're not protecting against,
right.
Some other types of threats. So your question is not, your question could be maybe reframed as, if we can't necessarily get George's laptop because it's protected by Plurilock, are there other threats that exist? And the answer, unfortunately, is yes. There are a lot of other threats that exist. And so we, again, go back to cybersecurity ultimately is a team sport. You need that defense in depth where you have the firewall, the antivirus, and hopefully the Plurilock as well, to be able to ultimately reduce risk and try and prevent threats from doing damage.
Yeah, and thanks for kind of wordsmithing that, because it was difficult for me to ask that question because I don't want to ask a security question either, right? So I think we came as close to the sun there as we could. Hey, let me ask you a question. Obviously, with what's happening in Ukraine right now, we've heard multiple times that cyber attacks are and will continue to be a big part of what's going on over there, right? It's not just military, but cyber attacks are what's planned. They're taking place. It's unfortunate it's happening, right? Nobody wants to be able to benefit from unfortunate things going on. But on the flip side, that's what cybersecurity is for, because these things happen. What does that do for Plurilock? Because you guys do have a lot of government, a lot of your contracts are government contracts. Even now with Integra, RCMP, they've got the DoD in Canada. Does that end up driving, or do you think it'll end up driving more business or proposals and interest in your company going forward?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I think it will. And I say unfortunately, because obviously none of us want what's happening right now to be happening. But I think it is, to a certain extent, a bit of a wake-up call to say, look, these are some of the threats that that the industry has been talking about. And now the everyday consumer is realizing, hey, this is what happens, when it comes to cybersecurity. I mean, I will say over the last couple of weeks, we've seen just a tremendous amount of cyber attacks taking place in Europe, in Eastern Europe. And, that's been everything from denial of service attacks. We've seen internet outages. We've seen attacks going after some of the satellite communication gear. And so there's a lot of activity right now. Now, I think thankfully, from our perspective, a little bit is still, it's a little bit still contained in the sense that, we're not seeing mass attacks on institutions in North America yet, or certainly, not any more than the norm. Obviously, last year with the Colonial Pipeline attack and so on, there were criminal groups who were out conducting mischief. But that could certainly change. And if there is an escalation, then there could certainly be ramifications when it comes to cyber defense. Now, what does that do for the cybersecurity industry? Well, it just means that there's more awareness on it. And so, certainly I think a lot of businesses, in addition to government agencies and enterprises, are really taking stock. What are the projects that we have underway? Can we accelerate those? What were the things that we said we would do on a rainy day? Should we be doing those now? A lot of those conversations are happening right now, today, as we're in the thick of it.
By the way, I'm not sure if you know this or not, and I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't, only because things are moving so fast, and we don't always watch the news all the time. But Russia actually announced their list, their blacklist today, which included the UK, the United States, Canada was on there, right? So I've got to think when I saw that list, I don't think Russia's about to come over the North Pole and attack Canada, militarily. But as soon as I saw that, I said, well, I wouldn't be surprised if they started launching cyber attacks against the US and against Canada. So I just figured maybe that would be something. I'm not sure if you knew that, or if you didn't, there's no way you can give me an answer to that, but I figured it'd be worth bringing up.
Well, I'd say it's a very fluid situation, and obviously, I think folks like yourself and myself, we have a certain point of view of from where we sit and the things that we have access to. We can infer certain things, but listen, it's a very fluid situation, and I will say this: I don't think that the threat of cyber attacks is going to go away anytime soon. So regardless of which direction it goes, I don't think that things are going to decrease in intensity, for the next little bit.
No, and that's why I love the fact that Plurilock gives small cap investors an opportunity to participate in the cybersecurity growth. Unfortunately, but the growth, because most 99% of cybersecurity companies are mature, NASDAQ, like I said, multi-round VC, go out multi-billion-dollar valuations, and it's kind of too late by then for small cap investors. So on that note, last question: what's the continued M&A strategy for Plurilock going forward? Because obviously acquisitions, you made a key one last year. You got Integra now. Should we expect more of that going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So we said at the beginning of this year, we said that there were 3 key initiatives that we are going to focus on internally. And so the first one is to continue focusing on organic sales, both for the solutions division as well as for the technology division. The second is continued investment in our owned proprietary products as part of the technology division. And then the third key initiative is to continue our M&A strategy. And so we are actively looking for and evaluating other profitable cybersecurity companies with great customers. I think that we've now started to build a bit of a track record in being able to actually do the things that we said we were going to do. And so I think that we're going to have a very active year this year coming up.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I actually said that was going to be my last question, but your answer made me think of one more thing, which is this is your first acquisition in Canada, which I'm certain has lit up the attention of other cybersecurity companies in Canada. So what do you think this acquisition does in terms of, here's Georgecom Cyber, I've been thinking of an exit strategy, and I see that Plurilock has just acquired Integra. Is it safe for me to make the assumption that the Georgecom Cybers and the ABC Cybersecurities of the world are probably going to be giving you guys a call or sending out feelers?
Well, I think anytime you're actually able to accomplish a transaction, you get put on some radars, right? And certainly when you have starting to build a track record of 2 closed acquisitions. We also had our announced acquisition of Cloud Codes, which we announced at the end of last year, which we're still in the process of closing. So, I think when you start to build that reputation and build that notoriety, yeah, of course, the phone starts to ring. And so we're very fortunate that Plurilock is in a good position right now. As I say, we're actively looking to have those conversations and ultimately, with the goal of keeping our customers safe. I mean, that fundamentally is why we're doing all these things.
No doubt. That's the core. Obviously, that's the number one reason you do these things. But as a public company, I'm sure you're more than anybody very well versed in the fact that you got shareholders, you want to build value for them. And I like the fact that you've got another acquisition that's in process and more to come, because I think this is going to be, look, like we said, Cybercrime, cost $6 trillion in 2021, expect to be 10.5 trillion in 2025 in costs. In what it's going to cost.
It's just staggering. I mean, the numbers are staggering.
It's absolutely enormous. It's absolutely enormous. Yeah. So I'm grateful for the fact that the small cap world, because Agoracom is kind of that proxy, right? I'm grateful for the fact that we do have a couple like Plurilock, so that small cap investors can get in on the ground floor in the cybersecurity world, and can't wait to have you back, my friend.
George, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform, to Ian Patterson, CEO of Plurilock Security, trades in Canada under PLUR for our friends in the US, PLCKF. For those new to the story, but you love the headline, you love what you've heard today or what you've watched today, two ways to do your due diligence. Get to the company's profile page on Agoracom. Look, we know cybersecurity is cutting edge and there's a lot of info in there. We've got it down into real understandable summary, so you get that good 1,000-foot overview of Plurilock. And then from there, when you got that foundation, head right over to the Plurilock website, do your deep dive due diligence. If you believe in the future of cybersecurity, if you like the growth you've seen out of the company already, do your due diligence. Just don't say 12 months from now, we didn't tell you so. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.